Tim and the Mill by Ruslan Shafigulin. Chapter 2, The Old Town for the Future. The door opened. Old man Berhard Horn, smiling, greeted the guests.
Hello, Tim, Marta.
Good day, Herr Berhard Horn, they greeted him. Berhard Horn gestured toward the massive door at the end of the hallway.
Please, come in. Step into the living room.
Tim and Marta entered a large hall. Along the perimeter of the room, curving gently around the space, stood whimsical carved furniture. To the right of the window rose an easel with a painting, and to the left sat a squat harpsichord, adorned with veneer inlays and colorful stones. A towering grandfather clock further emphasized the atmosphere of times long past.
Please, have a seat.
Berhard Horn invited them to a small round table.
I'll be back in just a moment.
Tim and Marta, as if transported into a house from centuries ago, curiously examined the details of the decor. Berhard Horn returned with a pitcher of lemonade and long forearm-length crystal glasses. He poured the drink and settled across from his guests. Only the mesmerizing ticking of the antique clock could be heard, and the conversation hesitated to begin. Marta was the first to break the silence.
Herr Berhard Horn, thank you for the lemonade. It's delicious.
Yes, it's excellent. Thank you.
Tim added.
Good. I'm glad to have you in my home. I imagine you're surprised by the invitation since we've never spoken before, and my reclusive lifestyle hasn't helped. But the time has come. The day has arrived to tell a story, one that will answer your questions. A day that will change your life.
Marta moved closer to Tim. Berhard Horn smiled and rose from his chair. Shaking his head slightly, he paced slowly around the room. Then he sat down again, looked at his guests, and spoke calmly.
It was a long time ago. In 1663, a small town named Hirit lived its quiet life in these parts. By then, old Hirit had a proud history and traditions. The town had never known war, for there had been none. A peaceful life fostered growth and prosperity. Generations had built up Hirit's architectural wealth. In the center of town, around the main square and town hall, rows of tall stone buildings gave rise to 8 city districts. From the town hall tower, all of Hirit could be seen. Residents on the western outskirts worked at the nearby wool-weaving manufactories. The 2 largest districts in the south, Yaru and Aru, were home to artisans. Further east stretched a few houses with apple orchards, beyond which stood 6 mills. In front of the districts known colloquially as Eisen and Sali, in the far northern part of town, stood an ancient fortress. The perimeter of Hirit's oldest structure formed a perfect equilateral triangle.
Berhard Horn took a sip of his lemonade and continued.
At sunrise on June 5th, 1663, in a house near the central square where the Yaru district began, a quiet day's work began. An old man, a master woodworker, started preparing linseed oil to treat cherrywood blanks. The silence was pierced by the growing sound of galloping hooves. Looking out the window, he saw a rider on a lathered horse, racing toward the town hall. 15 minutes later, the double chime of the bell rang out, a signal for the urgent gathering of Hirit's townsfolk. People hurried out of their homes toward the main square. The old man heard the street buzzing with speculation about the reason for the gathering, but chose not to go, trusting his quick-witted neighbors. He continued working intently, unaware that the crowd was already returning from the square, and that someone was knocking persistently at his workshop door. Only a loud shout by name interrupted his meticulous work. The old man approached the window and saw the utterly bewildered face of his neighbor. After a few words about the warning, true horror gripped him. The messenger who had galloped past the workshop had informed the head of the town council about the outbreak of a plague epidemic. Trouble was coming to Hirit. Great trouble. The Black Death had begun to rage in Amsterdam and had spread to the northern cities of Germany. People were dying. From the villages farther south, a group of surviving peasants arrived, and the head of the council proposed that the townspeople leave the city. The fleeing peasants might have brought death with them, and no one was willing to wait any longer. The people were urged to head toward the fishing villages, a 5-day journey on foot. Before the long road to the sea, Carts were gathered from all districts for the children, pregnant women, and the infirm. Warm clothes and provisions were collected. People helped one another, united by the looming disaster. There was noise all around, and everyone was in a hurry. The old man hurried as well. He had gathered only a few belongings, some pieces of cheese and dried meat for food, and most importantly, his tools. Almost everything of value fit into a large backpack basket. The old man tried on the enormous box, gauging the weight of the burden ahead, and shut the windows from the inside. Before closing the last window, he sat down to take one last look at his workshop. "Seems like I've packed everything," the old man murmured. He lifted the basket and, adjusting the wide straps, felt its full weight. Suddenly, a sharp dizziness. A veil clouded his eyes. Everything blurred into a single streak. Trying to grab the shutters with his hands, the old man lost his balance and fell. The bottom edge of the basket struck his lower back. Pain. Intense pain. He gasped. Shock gripped every muscle. Time dissolved somewhere, along with the noise. The old man lost consciousness. The city was empty. A gentle breeze became the true master of the streets, and the coolness it carried quickly wrapped Herit in the soft embrace of evening. Thunder rolled not far away. Lightning split the sky into a phantasmagoria of celestial lanterns, their light filling the space without restraint. Bright flashes, in an unending sequence, lit up the workshop. The old man slowly regained consciousness. Pain returned with awareness. He couldn't move. The suffering stretched on with the unceasing thunder, keeping him from slipping back into oblivion. The old man lowered his eyelids. Suddenly, a blinding orange light flooded the entire room. The old man involuntarily opened his eyes. "My God! Light? What is this?" he whispered quickly, watching as the window shutters simply disappear, as if dissolving into the thick orange fog. "It's a dream, just a dream," the old man thought. "It will all be over soon." But suddenly, through the now non-existent window, a small light emerald sphere silently flew into the workshop. Gliding smoothly to the center of the room, it slowly rotated around its imaginary vertical axis, gradually increasing its speed. The old man watched the unknown object in horror. Soon, small cylindrical granules separated from the sphere. They occupied cells in space, forming a glowing horizontal plane. At the place where the rotating sphere had been, nothing remained. Everything had transformed into a bright sheet of emerald granules. The sheet descended toward the old man and, sliding down, stretched into shape and tightly covered his entire body. "What happens next? What?" the old man asked silently, appealing to the unknown forces. The pain gradually subsided, and he felt it becoming easier to breathe. In a split second, the enclosing cocoon flared with bright lights, and from the cylindrical granules, white threads rapidly sprouted, forming something like a web. The old man felt a gentle pressure from the thread-like framework. Then the tension increased, and it gently lifted him off the floor. An unknown force carried the old man through the workshop window and slowly guided him toward the center of the city. The empty streets of Herit were evenly bathed in a bright orange light. Coming from somewhere above, far off, a thunderstorm rumbled. As he floated past the town hall, the old man tried to move, but the thread framework proved to be a firm barrier. In the middle of the square, the movement stopped, and he saw something approaching from above, breaking through the thick orange haze. The old man found himself inside a translucent pyramid, and he could hear nothing. Absolute silence reigned. The pyramid ascended, and wide petals extended from its edges to the base, closing along perfect lines. Inside the fully sealed space, the light grew ever brighter. The old man closed his eyes. In a large room, the old man lay sleeping on a bed. A woman's voice, slowly repeating, sounded in a gentle whisper.
"You are safe. We intend to establish a relationship of trust with you and will support your wishes. We are human."
The familiar German speech, with a slight foreign accent, awakened him. The message repeated again and again. He lifted his head. Powerful streams of bright orange light, pouring through round windows, traced the unfamiliar decor of the room into an enveloping geometry of shadows. Yes, that light was in the workshop when I was unwell. My God, this isn't a dream. What now? The old man thought. Quickly getting to his feet, he walked around the room, examining the space and the objects within it. Against the overall silvery background of the unusual wall pattern, one section stood out in olive color with a different texture. It must be a door, the old man pondered. And the rows of columns, with the widest one in the center of the hall? Perhaps it serves as a support for the ceiling structure. But why is the column made of glass? The monotonous female voice gradually faded, and the old man grew alert. The presumed door opened with a sharp upward motion, and 3 people entered the room. A young man and woman, along with a boy of about 6, smiled warmly. The man spoke a few phrases in an unfamiliar language, and then, after a brief pause, a familiar, persuasive half-whisper spoke.
Welcome aboard our ship. We are one family. My name is Rush, my wife is Matea, and our son is Yaren. Tega will be translating from our language for you. She's both a polyglot and our household assistant.
The old man began hesitantly. My home, where is my home? Sensing the guest's emotional outburst, the unseen Tega translated more quickly, and Rush nodded approvingly.
Your home is safe, as is your hometown. But we weren't able to save the residents. Our robots, or rather messengers, found the townspeople on their way to the northern sea. They were dying from an epidemic. Such a rapidly progressing form of disease is unknown to us. My family offers you our condolences.
The old man cried silently. From the central glass column, an unknown mechanism extended a large table with chairs, and Matea, taking the old man by the arm, helped him sit down. Yaren stood beside him and gently placed his small hand on the man's elbow. After some time, the old man calmed down a little. He looked at each of them and, swaying with his whole body, said, Horn, my name is Berhard Horn.
Well, Berhard Horn, you're a strong man. We've already seen that. Shall we shake hands?
Rush said, smiling. Yes, let's shake hands. And old Horn rose from his chair. After warm handshakes with each family member, he carefully sat down on the edge of the glass seat, worried it might break.
Don't worry,
Said Matea.
you'll be surprised by many things yet. As you get used to our way of life, we'll help you with everything, especially the technical side. There will be plenty of time.
The mention of time made Horn uneasy, but he chose not to ask, simply nodding, Yes, of course. The whole family gathered around the table, and little Yaren glanced curiously between their guest and his father. Rush spoke.
Berhard Horn. Now I will tell you the incredible story of our people. Some things may seem unclear at first, but in time, everything will become clear to you.
The head of the family speaks slowly.
In ancient times, many hundreds of thousands of years ago, there existed another civilization across the entire Earth. One that had a wondrous natural world, vast nations, and countless beautiful cities. Technological development was far more advanced than the current way of life in the city of Hirat. The oceans, the skies, and even space had been conquered by our great forebears. Universal prosperity had triumphed over poverty, hunger, and disease. Humanity's dream of eternal peace was beginning to come true. The people of my distant ancestors were called the Nali. They lived in these lands, in the ancient city of Oavi, the cultural center of a beautiful country called Rutsa.
Rush rose from the table and approached old Horn, who looked at the head of the family in astonishment.
Look, Berhard Horn.
And he opened his palm before the old man's eyes. Next to a wide red ribbon lay a round medallion carved from greenish-blue stone. Inside, a golden ring on the medallion. There was another ring made of white metal, where 3 crystal threads divided the surface with parallel lines. A silver rhombus, with one side unfinished, cut through the inner ring with its irregular geometry, yet did not extend beyond the outer perimeter.
This family heirloom is always with me. It has been passed down from generation to generation, and it is of earthly origin. The outer ring represents the universe, the inner ring, the earth. The three threads stand for land, water, and sky, and the unfinished rhombus symbolizes the search for harmony. Those happy times lasted for nearly 1,000 years, until strange phenomena occurred on Earth. Explanations came later, after great and dramatic events. The first sign was a year of poor harvests, not only in Rutse, but across all continents. Then, new and unknown diseases began killing millions. Vaccines were developed with great difficulty, but by then, epidemics had already wiped out much of humanity. Soon after, extremely high spikes in radiation, not of cosmic origin, were recorded daily. To survive, people began building underground cities, but unsafe radiation levels continued to rise everywhere. On the surface, where radiation sources appeared and vanished unpredictably, death came within minutes without protection. The situation worsened. The World Council of Nations made the decision to prepare ships for evacuation, a journey to other stars. The nearest destination would take 35 years to reach. At that time, there were no habitable planets within the solar system, and only a trial flight offered a chance at survival. Ships were built around the clock, and the installation of untested experimental engines only increased the extreme risks of the evacuation. To monitor Earth's condition, an army of messenger robots was created to remain behind. Some governments lost control due to mass panic, which paralyzed not only progress, but all aspects of life. Time relentlessly pushed humanity toward extinction, forcing it to challenge a fate governed by irreversible earthly processes. On the day of farewell to Earth, people returned to their homelands. Each had only a few seconds before the flight into the unknown. The ships launched in pairs, 1 hour apart. For safety reasons, each pair followed a different route, but all toward the same destination. The constellation Vara, the closest theoretically reachable system. Our ancestors, the Nali, were the last to depart. Humanity left the solar system without losses, and the journey through the unknown went smoothly. For a year, the messenger robots transmitted updates. The situation on Earth continued to deteriorate, radiation levels had multiplied, and the planet was becoming lifeless. There was no way back. No one knew that one Nali teenager named Kamsh had left behind his own invention, an autonomous dissolver robot, not connected to the main monitoring system. One day, out of curiosity, Kamsh decided to check if the dissolver robot still functioned. He opened a communication channel, and to his amazement, the creation responded. The robot greeted its creator and transmitted an image of an artificial stone, the one in which it had been placed. On Earth, Kamsh assessed the dissolving capabilities of his robot inside a capsule made of artificial stone, periodically changing its composition. The invention was originally intended for archaeological work, primarily for the safe cleaning of ancient artifacts from various deposits and dirt. The robot was equipped with a powerful autonomous laboratory and a chemical scanner, allowing it to dissolve materials layer by layer after analyzing their composition. The robot immediately received a task: to take chemical and radiation samples from the stone, then dissolve a small portion of it to gain access to external surveillance. Kamsh was stunned. Earth was deserted, but the radiation levels were normal. At first, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Hesitant to inform the ship's inhabitants, he began rechecking the results. The data kept repeating day after day, and the growing doubts pushed Kamsh to speak with the ship's commander, Dinaom. They spoke in private, and Dinam calmly listened to the information received from the dissolver robot. He asked Kamsh to bring the remote control unit and saw for himself what contradicted the readings from the messenger robots. Kamsh and Dinam agreed not to bring the matter to public attention yet, deciding to investigate it together. The next day, Kamsh asked Dinam about the locations of radioactive waste disposal, and the commander immediately seized on the teenager's idea. By a stroke of luck, the path to Sector 23 to 33, where an old radioactive storage facility was located, didn't take long. Soon, the dissolver robot and a messenger robot began measuring radiation levels deep within the shaft. The results were shocking. The dissolver robot registered the true high radiation levels, while the messenger robot showed the same old surface data. Dinam ordered both robots to record each other's readings. Kamsh's robot transmitted logically consistent changes. The other didn't react at all. More questions arose. What was happening on Earth? Dinam and Kamsh devised an action plan using all the capabilities of the dissolver robot. It immediately began exploring the area. To avoid any interference, the robot hid inside its stone capsule and moved by swimming through rivers. Water was the main material used to rapidly construct a protective shield. Kamsh monitored his daily creation, and on the 9th day, when the robot returned to its original location, the mystery of the radiation levels unraveled. The teenager noticed a triangular object slowly flying along the river. The dissolver robot, now at full speed, began a stealth pursuit. As the object approached the messenger robot stationed in that sector, it descended. After landing, 2 humanoid beings exited the ship and approached the messenger. With swift movements, they inserted several blocks from their backpack gear into the robot's memory cells and quickly returned to their ship. The last thing the dissolver robot transmitted was a series of bright blue flashes. Then the connection was lost. Attempts to restore the link failed. DNM reviewed the footage several times and discussed it at length with Kamsh. There was no doubt aliens were operating on Earth. A follow-up data request to the messenger robots showed that radiation levels had increased. The aliens were feeding false data into the robot's memory. DNM decided to first present the discovery to the Council of Representatives. He believed informing all human ships was premature. At the Council, the demonstration of alien presence caused a shock. A long silence followed, broken by the voice of one representative. Zern. He began speculating about the logic behind the intruders' actions, especially their observation of humanity's evacuation preparations. Zern suggested that such disinformation lacked rational purpose, and that time was needed to understand it all. A discussion began, but wild theories failed to form any coherent logic. Heated arguments broke out. Kamsh, present at the council, noticed the commander's strange silence. Dinam listened intently to everyone, not joining the debate. Suddenly, he stood up sharply and asked Zern for the exact time he had been invited to the council. Zern said nothing. Dinam raised his hand, and a sudden pulse from his combat bracelet struck Zern in the head. The bracelet's stored energy was enough to instantly kill any human. But Zern was still alive. His eyelids shut, and his skin rapidly shifted to a gray-green hue. It looked like agony. But the deceptive agony turned into an attack. 2 beams, one red, the other violet, shot from the eyes of the dying figure, zigzagging through the air. As the beams converged, Kamsh reacted instantly. He grabbed an emergency pack from a wall niche and, activating its deployment, tossed it above Zern. The pack, designed for decompression and chemical threats, released a soft glass-like shield, and the enveloping layers halted the beam's movement. Everyone surrounded the encased Zern, or rather, the being hiding beneath his appearance. Suddenly, a command signal rang out. DANM ordered Zern to be taken to an isolation chamber for study and rushed to the command center. The other council members followed protocol. At the main post, a pale-faced operator reported explosions on all human ships. The destruction left no chance of survival. Most of humanity had perished. Relentless pain. Unbearable moments. DNM couldn't afford to hesitate. The personnel in the isolation chamber were ordered not to take any risks. If there were any signs of activity, they were to destroy the mysterious being immediately. Then, the commander informed the council members that a classified research protocol on Zern had begun. At a general assembly, DNM announced the terrible loss. They were the only remaining ship of all humanity. Time carried danger, but even greater danger lay in uncertainty. Kamsh became actively involved in studying the unknown entity. As it turned out, it was a hybrid bionic robot equipped with a bomb, activated by command from an artificial intelligence. Scanning of one sealed container revealed a developing bacterial colony. The purpose of the cargo remained a mystery. In the robot's memory, telemetry data had been preserved, including a recorded order to destroy the ships. The number of confirmation signals matched the number of vessels destroyed. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Humanity had been under surveillance for a while, and during the evacuation, foreign forces had sent their assassins. As the research progressed, the isolation chamber team began working on a clone of Zern. Weapons and systems testing were conducted around the clock, and in a short time, the robot was successfully recreated. This effort taught them a great deal. The clone was named Z1. According to Commander Dynem's plan, Z1 was to be launched into space aboard a small repair shuttle, accompanied by volunteers from among the representatives. The mission, to activate a communication channel and transmit false information about a malfunction in the bomb's execution systems. A faint hope remained that the aliens would send new commands to Z, one that could help reveal their intentions. The day of contact with the aliens turned out to be a success. First, Z1 received an order to transmit all archived data, and then it accepted new instructions with the following content. Do not use bionic resources to repair damaged bomb components. Avoid any stress that could affect the container with the bacterial colony. Operate in normal mode. From then on, the Earthlings regularly sent misleading reports, and for 2 months the flight proceeded normally, until the main events occurred. At the command post, distortions were detected in the readings of the propulsion system sensors, and problems escalated rapidly. DINM urged everyone not to panic. The survey scanners identified a rapidly approaching object in space, and the external surveillance cameras transmitted the image of a massive alien ship. As it slowed down, the colossal ship released 9 glowing spheres toward the Earthlings. The spheres swirled chaotically around the hull and, one by one, changed shape and attached themselves to different parts of the ship's exterior. Sensors registered a temperature rise. Tubular manipulators extended toward the attached spheres like the tentacles of an octopus, and the capture was completed within seconds. The commander activated the general alarm, but the unexpected happened even faster. To everyone's surprise, the propulsion system returned to its normal operating mode, while the alien giant accelerated to an unimaginable speed, dragging the Earth ship, now immobilized, along with it. Several tense days passed as the crew tried in vain to establish contact with the capturing vessel. And then, unexpectedly, the aliens made contact. Through the transmission, the Earthlings saw two ordinary-looking people sitting in elongated chairs. Wavy hair with a sheen of white gold was the only distinguishing feature of the aliens. Their light blue eyes attentively watched Commander Dynam. They greeted him in the native language of the Gnolls. With some nervousness, the commander expressed respect on behalf of all Earthlings and introduced himself. The unknown individuals then spoke about themselves. The names of the pilots of the colossal ship were Spos and Latk. They were envoys of the Fiar people, who originated from the planet Lepavin in the constellation Urnob. For many centuries, the Fiar had been at war with the Klirds, whose lineage began on the planet Glitchs. Latk explained that it was the Klirds who had spread diseases and carried out radiation attacks on Earth. Forcing humanity to evacuate, the Klirds had deployed assassins, bionic robots designed to capture ships and carry out bacteriological contamination of the distant planet Vols. The sinister mission of the robots was meant to culminate on Vols, where the Fiar planned to build a base. The treacherous plans were not uncovered immediately, but thanks to intelligence obtained from the Klir's command center, Spos and Latk re-established contact with Zern. They issued an order to take no action and directed their colossal ship to intercept only the Earth vessel, preemptively. After Latk finished recounting the backstory, Spos offered Commander Dynam protection. According to him, the destructive force of the Klirts would pursue humanity wherever they went. The Fiar needed allies and could assist in colonizing Vols, a planet perfectly suited for life. Fate offered a chance, and the commander accepted the proposal. The joint journey to Vols lasted 6 years. The colossal spacecraft towed the Earth vessel away from mortal danger, guiding it toward the distant, beautiful planet. The humans received a vast trove of knowledge from the Fiar and developed a detailed plan for colonizing their new home. Everyone is trained and has acquired skills for effective work. The people awaited the encounter with the unknown. 2 days before landing, following the prescribed protocols of the Fiar, the colossal ship reduced its speed, and a mole ship was dispatched to Vols with a squad of burrowing robots. The mole ship began preparing a deep tunnel intended for a safe landing. To camouflage the tunnel entrance, it left behind a bionic chameleon scout, while it continued to dig a network of underground labyrinths. If discovered, the labyrinths would allow for both maneuvering and defense. Given the technological capabilities of Klir's, the scanner readings could not be blindly trusted, and this prescribed landing protocol had saved lives more than once. Everything went perfectly. When the first image of the blooming planet was transmitted from the surface by the chameleon scout, the Earthlings greeted their new home with joyful cheers. At that moment, Commander Dynam said prophetically, "From now on, we are forever Volsians." The colonization of the planet progressed rapidly. In the initial phase, to expand their defensive capabilities, the Volsians created small, drifting underwater stations. Gradually, humans settled the coastal regions, and the first city they built was named Volsnaal, in honor of their ancestors and the planet that had become their new home. The Fiar provided technical assistance, and over the course of millennia, numerous cities and robotic combat stations were constructed. On the cosmic approaches to Vols, in the air, underwater, on the surface, and in the tunnels, robots stood watch. The Klir's had partially lost their former power, but Earth was still under their control. The military alliance of the Fiar and the Volsians decided the time had come to strike. According to the developed plan, in a remote part of the constellation, a station disguised as a massive asteroid was to attack the Klir's patrol ships. The likely diversion of enemy forces to the forward assault zone would expose the defenses of the command ships, offering a chance to destroy them. At first, everything went according to the tactical ruse. Invisible vaporizing beams from the battle asteroid struck the patrol group. Under the intense heat, the hulls of the ships boiled like water, and the Clers began losing vessels. The asteroid station recorded enemy maneuvers to support the patrols, when suddenly its scanners detected an unknown armada of ships heading toward the main Clers forces. To avoid detection by the unknown fleet, the Allies decided to retreat to their original positions. The approaching armada attacked Clers with unprecedented force, and as the asteroid station safely passed through the combat zone, it intercepted valuable data. The unknown force annihilated the Clers space army. The eternal enemies of the Fjár and the Volsians, those who had sown death across the stars, had found the seed of death, sown by others. Events unfolded rapidly. On the planets enslaved by the Clers, the strangers destroyed the climate, and mass extinction of all life began. And then they vanished, just as swiftly as they had appeared. Analysis of the intercepted data revealed that the unknown destroyers called themselves the Lerds. They were the founders of a vast empire, Lersisphere, located in the constellation Zammuz. The Lerts acted in a coordinated manner, relying on gathered intelligence, and the agents embedded within Clerd society could not have been unaware of the Fjár-Volsian alliance. The future held great danger. The Allies decided to act preemptively, and their joint efforts quickly bore fruit. On the devastated planets, robot-built climate restoration facilities and life were revived in many worlds. Newly developed fighters and combat robotic stations surpassed all previously imaginable technological achievements. As each group of stations was completed, it was deployed to a designated colonized planet, and one such group was planned to be positioned around Earth. Several Volsian families expressed a desire to live on the planet of their ancestors, primarily as coordinators for the robotic defense stations. The military council supported the volunteers. The ship carrying the Volsians landed safely, and from the first day, the new Earthlings began building a concealed settlement. The colonists awaited the arrival of the stations, but the defense group didn't make it in time. The Lerts invaded just as swiftly as they had when they destroyed the Clers. They cut off Earth and several other planets with an armada of deadly ships. Contact with the colonists was lost, and what happened afterward remains unknown to this day. Years later, scanners confirmed humanity had survived. Earth remains blockaded by the Lerts, and the war has raged on for hundreds of thousands of years.
Rush looked at his wife and continued.
To change the military situation, which has been unfolding unfavorably for the Allies, I was tasked with preparing and executing a breakthrough to Earth for a specific mission. Matea managed to convince both the military council and me that the entire family should take part in the mission. Our chances would increase. During the blockade breakthrough, not everything went smoothly, and the Lerts, sensing something was wrong, dispatched a scout ship that followed us closely. Providence was on our side, and time allowed us to carry out the plan. To simulate the destruction of our ship during an emergency landing within the boundaries of Hirat, we decided to evacuate the city and its inhabitants underground. A mole ship, sent in advance with a squad of burrowing robots, successfully lowered Hirat into a transport tunnel and towed it to the conservation sector. As we approached Earth, we were already aware of the epidemic and the abandoned city. Our robot inspector found you, Bernhard Horn. They could not save the others. The Allied Military Council was informed about the city's conservation and the planned disaster simulation. We landed in the tunnel through a hologram of Hirat projected by the chameleon scout and then a massive explosion was meant to eliminate all suspicion. We hope it worked. The Chameleon Scout will continue projecting the deceptive mirage of destruction for decades to come. To Lertz, we are dead, and all precautions must be maintained.
Rush, looking into the eyes of old Berhard Horn, said,
By fate's will, you were in the city, alone. You have a choice. We can take you anywhere you wish underground and then bring you to the surface. But we hope for your help. And we need you, Berhard Horn. We are Volzians. We are human.
The old man Berhard Horn asked in surprise, How can I help? What are you planning to do, Rush? The head of the Volzian family gently took him by the arm, inviting him to the window. What Horn saw filled him with overwhelming emotion. His beloved Hirit, illuminated by an unknown source, lay below, just a bird's flight away. Looking up, he saw dazzling white spheres casting a bright orange glow over the city.
We ask you to be our watchman on the surface of Earth and to take part in preserving Hirit.
But how, Rush? I'm already an old man. Maybe for a while.
From this day forward, time will flow differently. Berhard Horn, we will take care of your health, and old age will retreat.
The old man, Berhard Horn, spoke slowly. Is such a thing even possible?
Yes, it is. Matea is a medical specialist.
Possible? Incredible. And my hometown? Do you need it as part of history? Rush explained unhurriedly.
Yes, Berhard Horn. The worth of Hirit is beyond measure. Let me get to the heart of the matter, the mission of my family on Earth. We arrived with thousands of construction robots, ready to replicate themselves and establish specialized laboratories to form several armies of builders. The next phase, the construction of a factory city, where hybrid bionic robots endowed with intelligence will be grown and assembled. The mission of these hybrid robots is to create space fighters, a task that will take many years. Once ready, my family, along with the fleet of fighters, will strike the blockade ring of the Lertz. Before our landing, as I've already mentioned, the War Council received intelligence about the conservation of Hirit and the planned simulation of a catastrophe. The Council made the following decision. Given the possible presence of Lertz on Earth and their cloaking capabilities, all communication is strictly forbidden, not only until the fleet is completed, but even during the attack launched from Earth. To stretch and weaken the enemy's forces, the United Allied Army will strike simultaneously with my fighter fleet. The signal to begin the synchronized assault will be the emergence of Hirit on the surface, land or ocean, anywhere on the planet. Powerful scanners continuously monitor all changes on Earth, and the recognition of Hirit takes only seconds from the moment of its appearance. Then, 10 minutes to readiness and launch. Berhard Horn, your hometown will become a cosmic beacon. That time will come.
A beacon for humanity, murmured old Horn, gazing out the window. Yes, I'm with you, Rush. Several centuries had passed since that fateful meeting.
Old Horn turned to his guests.
Tim, Marta, I've told you the beginning of a story from those distant times, and now Providence is weaving your destinies into that tale. I see your surprise. Yes, my longevity was made possible by the medical advancements of Matea. Standing before you is Berhard Horn, the keeper of Hirit, the ancient city for the future.
Marta asked,
Herr Berhard Horn, forgive my bluntness. May I have some more lemonade?
Yes, it has a special taste.
Tim nodded. Old Horn smiled and looked toward the door, It slid open swiftly, and a slowly floating pitcher of lemonade gently descended onto the table.
I came prepared for guests. Drink the lemonade, and then I have something to show you.
Tim and Marta exchanged glances. They filled their glasses and, savoring the unique flavor, noticed that the living room was growing brighter and brighter. As he looked closely at the parquet floor, Tim rose from the table. The pattern in the wood was dissolving in the emerging light. He said,
Marta, Marta, look down.
A brilliant living light burst into the room. The parquet floor turned into transparent glass. With a gesture inviting them to sit, Old Horn said,
And here's it. Not everything is visible from here. The panorama will be shown by the robot.
Beneath the glass floor, a magnificent scene unfolded. The tiled roofs of old buildings flowed in soft, undulating waves, setting a rhythm that rippled outward toward the edges of the city, where the clustered little houses resembled a family of ducks. The smallest always nestled close to one another. The placement of several windmills struck the shape of an elongated figure, like a flattened house, a perfect hiding place for the duckling family. An ancient fortress loomed like a great stone, leaning on the city quarters as if ready to roll down the hillside. But the town hall tower, tall as a young tree grown strong, stood in its path, halting its descent. The city of Hirit was part of nature itself, a place where harmony whispers its song. Marta whispered,
A sleepy kind of magic, a cozy world.
Old Horn smiled.
Yes, here it is beautiful.
Tim hadn't heard the conversation, but when he felt Marta's gentle touch, he quickly stood up.
Herr Berhard Horn.
He began but didn't finish.
Yes, Tim. I believe you're wondering where the Voles family is.
Yes.
Tomorrow you'll meet them. In fact, it was the family's wish to share the secret with you first. They've been waiting a long time to meet you.
I can't wait for the new day to begin.
Tim smiled.
Yes, it's time for us to head home. We've stayed a while. Thank you for your hospitality, Herr Berhard Horn.
And thank you, my friends. Just like today, I'll be expecting you at 1900 sharp.
Goodbye, Tim and Marta said together.
Until we meet again, my friends.
Frau Stefan heard the lively conversation and stepped out onto the porch. She saw Tim and Marta wheeling their bicycles toward the road.
Wait, Tim, the pie.
Frau Stefan called out.
Yes, Mom, of course.
Frau Stefan carefully placed the treat into the bicycle basket.
Thank you, Frau Stefan.
Marta said gratefully.
We're planning to walk to the pond again tomorrow. It's such a beautiful place. Thanks again. Goodbye.
All right, Marta, take care. Tim, don't be late.
On the way back to the village, Tim and Marta shared their impressions of the day's most remarkable event at Old Horn's house.
Yes, the story about the Voles explains everything. The wonders with the windmill and the linden tree, all crafted by their hands. Can you imagine, Marta? Tomorrow we'll meet an alien family. How amazing is that?
I can imagine. And it all began so long ago, 1663. Then the backstory about saving Earthlings and colonizing Voles, another corner of the universe, right next to us.
And hear it! I even saw birds flying. The city is alive. Marta, did you notice the easel with the painting? So is Horn a painter too?
I think so. I really like the painting. Such a bright cityscape. I feel like I've seen that place before. Somewhere. Yes, there were so many interesting things in the living room.
Caught up in conversation, they lost track of time. Near her house, Marta suddenly said,
Oh, I remember. It's a promenade in Hamburg. I was there with my dad last summer. Yes. We'll have to ask Old Horn about the artist. Tim, come earlier tomorrow, around 3, okay?
Okay, Marta. See you then.
Till tomorrow, Tim.
As he approached his home, Tim glanced back at Old Horn's house. Every window glowed with light, a light that offered hope of discovering the unknown.